Good evening. It is February 19th, 2025. Going over a few stories for you. You may have seen some already because I'm behind. I didn't get anything. Wasn't able to get to this yesterday, but I'm going to go over these stories nonetheless. So we have this, as you've probably heard, 4.7 trillion unaccounted for, basically. Says the Treasury Access Symbol TAS is an identification code linking a Treasury payment to a budget line item. Standard financial process. In the federal government, the TAS field was optional for $4.7 trillion in payments and was often left blank, making traceability almost impossible. As of Saturday, this is now a required field, increasing insight into where money is actually going. Thanks to U.S. Treasury for the great work. Definitely. And I feel the way Carissa feels. I was feeling the same thing. I was thinking the same thing. We shouldn't have to pay a freaking penny in federal taxes. Not a penny. I feel the same way. I could totally understand what she's saying. Okay, let's see here. So, that's a whole heck of a lot of money. A lot more money than what they found so far. This one takes a cake. It is outrageous. So I guess they just can't fight it at this point. You know, it's apparently been spent by somebody, which is just awful. Just awful. So the next story is this one. It says, should Elon Musk live stream it? Elon Musk's Doge prepares gold reserve audit at Fort Knox after Senator Rand Paul invitation. It's interesting because I had totally forgotten about Fort Knox. Hadn't thought anything about it, anything of it. And then all of a sudden, it comes up, and they're like, oh, let's see what's going on with the gold bars in Fort Knox. And I'm wondering, what's going on in there? Is it empty? Are there stacks of gold bars in there, or is it empty, or what's going on with it, It'll be interesting because nobody's been able to get in. Nobody's been able to look in Fort Knox. No congressperson, no, like Senator Rand Paul, who is in the state that has it, Fort Knox. It's very odd that it's been, I think they said maybe only, did they say the Federal Reserve was the only one that had access or something? And it's very strange. I'd like to know what's going on with that. Then we have this feud going on between President Trump and President Zelensky, which I find funny. But I will say this. Let me bring up what President Trump says on Zelensky. Think of it. A modestly successful comedian, Vladimir Zelensky, talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go into a war that couldn't be won, that never had to start, but a war that he, without the U.S. and Trump, will never be able to settle. The United States has spent $200 billion more than Europe. And Europe's money is guaranteed, while the United States will get nothing back. Why didn't sleepy Joe Biden demand equalization? In that this war is far more important to Europe than it is to us. We have a big, beautiful ocean as separation. On top of this, Zelensky admits that half of the money he spent, we sent him, is missing. He refuses to have elections, is very low in Ukrainian polls, and the only thing he was good at was playing Biden like a fiddle. A dictator without elections. Zelensky better move fast or he is not going to have a country left. In the meantime, we are successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia, something I'll admit only Trump and the Trump administration can do. Biden never tried. Europe has failed to bring peace, and Zelensky probably wants to keep the gravy train going. I love Ukraine, but Zelensky has done a terrible job. His country is shattered, and millions have unnecessarily died, and so it continues. Exactly. Zelensky is a puppet of the U.S. and NATO, deep state operatives, and hopefully that'll be dismantled now. Because I think we were already, I heard Larry Johnson say he believes through his connections, he was hearing that CIA operatives and people in the field in Ukraine were supposedly pulling out of the area. Hopefully more will happen with that. We need to pull the plug on this whole thing. Zelensky is, getting all this money over there, and, he has this drug problem. He has all kinds of issues. Could have had a peace deal a couple months after this, when Russia invaded. Could have had a peace deal in 2 months. And the Zelensky and the Ukrainians had agreed to have to the peace treaty. But of course, as you know, the U.S. and Boris Johnson from the UK ruined that. That's why we have blood on our hands. Because we didn't, as you saw how Lindsey Graham and others like him spoke about this the past few years. All they cared about was, it wasn't our soldiers that were dying. It's just a bunch of Ukrainians. Who cares? It was really disgusting that they just used the Ukrainian soldiers as cannon fodder for, weapons and money made through war. The war is a racket, they say, And so, Trump understands much better who Zelensky is. I think finally he's getting the correct information. And again, after talking to Putin, that's been good. And seems like the talks have just started. And that, because I watched Rubio and Witkoff and Waltz speak on this yesterday. They're just at the beginning because they have to restart talks with Russia because it's been nothing for the past 4 years, or at least 3 years, 4 years, about 3 years, if not longer, that we haven't had any discussions with any of the Russians, and it's going to be a process. It's going to take a while for Putin and Russian in the Kremlin to even trust us. We, haven't been very trustworthy, as you know. And so that's what Rubio was basically saying, is they're working on, a step-by-step thing of honestly talking with Lavrov and his ensemble and working through. Basically, I'd heard Larry Johnson say, and I think maybe McGregor, that this was more about reestablishing diplomatic ties with Russia. So it was more about U.S. and Russia's relationship for the first part. And there's going to be delegations of different sorts. There's like 5 or so, I heard. Each group is going to be concentrating on a certain portion of this diplomacy that they're working on together, so that eventually they can go back to working on the Arctic together. They can, eventually, they first need to get rid of the sanctions on Russia, give them their money back. Hopefully, because apparently under Biden they froze something or whatever, or Russia's banks or something. So there's a lot of things that are going to take a while, because there's a lot of things that they have to do, and so that's and Rubio said that there's chances to work with them and economically, and I think that's a good idea. We've always should have been friends with Russia. I mean, Russia is a good trading partner, is a good person, a country to work with. We actually need some of those resources, and I think it's good to work with them. So we'll see how that goes. Now, the Middle East issue is a bit more sticky. Okay, so first we have to see what's been going on with Egypt, okay? And I think I brought this up to you before, that Egypt is developing Gaza reconstruction plan to counter Trump's takeover. Now, remember, Egypt and Qatar and I think it was UAE helped Egypt, and these groups came together to try to figure out what they're going to do to help rebuild Gaza. Meanwhile, Israel hasn't totally followed the ceasefire, although it's holding, by the Israeli standards, holding to a certain extent, even though they're still doing terrible things in the West Bank. In any case, and also in Lebanon, they're supposed to move. The IDF is supposed to be out of Lebanon, and that hasn't happened because Lebanon was complaining about that. Hey, get them out of our villages here on the border. But I don't think they've done that yet. I don't think they've totally removed. The Israelis haven't totally removed their army there. So this is what Egypt is doing. They're trying to help with that, as we'd heard before. We're going to go into the next portion of what happened after that, which is, this was on the 13th. Egypt receives first batch of Chinese vigorous Dragon Shengdo J-10CEs. This is something new here because, in a significant shift towards diversifying its military arsenal, Egypt has officially received its first batch of Chinese vigorous Dragon fighter jets. This development marks a pivotal moment in Egypt's defense strategy as it turns away from the traditional Western suppliers towards Chinese technology. The jets, which were showcased publicly at the Egypt International Air Show and confirmed by multiple sources as equipped with advanced air-to-air capabilities, including the formidable PL-15 missiles. So, let's see what this does.
In a significant pivot in global military alliances, Egypt is setting its sights on the skies with a strategic acquisition from the East. Welcome to Egypt's strategic shift to Chinese J-10C fighter jets, a move that could redefine the Middle Eastern military landscape. Egypt, traditionally equipped with American F-16s, is now looking towards China's Chengdu J-10C, a fourth-generation fighter jet known for its advanced capabilities at a fraction of the cost. This decision isn't just about upgrading the fleet. It's a statement on Egypt's defense strategy. In a deal that was signed on August 19th, Egypt would acquire a number of J-10C fighters. The J-10C boasts an active electronically scanned array radar, advanced electronic warfare systems, and is designed for air superiority and ground attack missions. For Egypt, this means not only modernizing its air force, but also gaining a fighter jet with no political strings attached, unlike its American counterparts. This strategic partnership was solidified during a high-profile visit where the commander of the Egyptian Air Force met with his Chinese counterpart in Beijing. Discussions were not just about jets, but about deepening military ties, reflecting shared security interests. The J-10C's entry into the Egyptian Air Force could be seen as a counterbalance to Israel's F-35s, offering Egypt a stealthy alternative. This acquisition, if realized, would make Egypt the second country after Pakistan to operate these Chinese jets, signaling a shift in Egypt's defense procurement strategy. But why China? Egypt's move reflects a broader trend of nations seeking to diversify their military suppliers, reducing dependence on Western technology amidst geopolitical tensions. China, with its rising status as an arms exporter, presents an attractive alternative. As Egypt navigates through these new alliances, the world watches.
That's pretty amazing. I've heard that Egypt is basically just has been, at least Sisi has been, the General Sisi, who's the president of Egypt, has just basically been under the thumb of the U.S. for a long time. So it looks like they're trying to free themselves from that. And so, and as you see, the tension between Egypt and Israel, as I had said the other day, has gone up. And there was talk about the Nile, that Egypt would be in dire straits of no water. The Israelis would try to, I guess, dam up the water or something. There's things going on there that's not good. Here's the latest today. Egypt denies US B-52 bomber access to airspace. So this was, Egypt made a significant decision that captured international attention when it denied two U.S. Air Force B-52H Stratofortress strategic bombers and a tanker aircraft permission to fly through its airspace en route to the Middle East. The aircraft, which had taken off from the United Kingdom, were forced to adjust their flight paths, spending time loitering south of Crete while the situation was resolved. This denial marks a rare instance of Egypt restricting access to its airspace for U.S. military aircraft, highlighting the complex dynamics of regional politics and security concerns in the Middle East. These bombers, known for their long-range capabilities and strategic importance, are often deployed to signal U.S. military presence and deter potential adversaries. In this case, their intended destination was the Middle East, a region marked by heightened tensions, particularly involving Iran, Israel, and various proxy conflicts. The U.S. frequently utilizes such deployments to reassure allies and demonstrate readiness to respond to emerging threats. However, Egypt's refusal to grant airspace access underscores its commitment to safeguarding its sovereignty and navigating the delicate balance of its relationships with both Western powers and regional actors. Yeah, Egypt is not in a good place. Military sources reported that Egypt's decision prompted a swift escalation in alert status for the U.S. aircraft, raising it to red while members of Congress were briefed on the developments. The rejection initially caused uncertainty as the bombers and their accompanying tanker aircraft were left in a holding pattern. Eventually, after what appeared to be high-level discussions, the aircraft was allowed to proceed, with one bomber entering Jordanian airspace and another disappearing from radar over the Persian Gulf, possibly heading toward Iran via Iraq. France also played a role by sending a refueling aircraft to support the mission, though its transponder signals were turned off, indicating a cautious approach to the sensitive operation. Egypt's actions came amid its own military mobilization, with reports indicating that the country had activated all reserve forces and was conducting a military exercise near Cairo from February 17 to 19, 2025. This exercise, which affected airspace up to flight level 265, was seen as a response to the unstable situation in the Sinai Peninsula and surrounding regions. By restricting the U.S. B-52s, Egypt signaled its determination to maintain control over its airspace and avoid being drawn into broader conflicts, even as it cooperates with Western allies on other fronts. The incident also raised questions about the strategic implications of the deployment. While B-52s are typically not used for strikes in the region due to existing U.S. military presence, their fully loaded status and refueling operations suggested the possibility of a major military operation. The timing coinciding with escalating tensions between Iran and Israel, as well as U.S. efforts to bolster its regional posture, added to the significance of Egypt's decision. Ultimately, the episode highlighted the challenges of military coordination in a volatile region where even routine deployments can become flashpoints for diplomatic and strategic maneuvering. This is important development, and we're going to be keeping an eye on all this. In my reports that I'm reading from. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. And that's what I have for you this evening. So I hope all of these stories, maybe the ones you're probably aware of most of them, but the ones you weren't, I hope all of these reports were helpful to you. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you for watching, and please like my videos if you think they're worth liking. Follow my channel, share my channel, share my videos, and appreciate your support. Until next time, have a great night.